Hello! Sneezy Gamer here again with more facts, lore, history, and more. Act 2. If you missed the first video, I posted a link in the description below, so you can go check that video out. If you already saw it, then you're good to go. Let's get started! You leave the murky Mervale Cave and find yourself in the Frisian Forest, which is a small area north of Axiom Prison and south of the city of Sarn. I'll talk about the city of Sarn in the next episode. This area is mostly covered with dense forest and a few open fields. Whatever caused the people to transform into flesh-eating monsters has also changed the wildlife. Their bodies have transformed and their eyes are now filled with hatred for mankind. Now the wildlife swarms the living with a malice that is beyond normal instinct. Just outside the forest encampment, you find a small group of bandits. Uramir informs us that these bandits are demanding that the forest encampment pay them taxes, making it difficult to live there. The bandits are exiles just like you, only they have sided into 3 different groups for power. Alira the Witch to the west, Oak to the north, and Creighton to the east. By reading those handy letters of exiles again, we can find Creighton's letter is posted here as well, which means he was also exiled from Oriath, just like you. The list tells us that Creighton hated the Ebony Legion and spent most of his time causing uproars and not contributing to society. Oak, Alira, and Creighton used to be allies. Together they discovered the Apex. The Apex has the power to enhance one's innate strengths. This is what started the disagreement between the 3 of them, so each took one piece and fled. Before we can move forward, I should talk about an event that devastated the entire continent. This event is known as the Cataclysm. This tragic event took place during the year 1339, about 261 years before you were exiled from Oriath. No news of this event reached Oriath until the effects drove the Krui off the coast and back to their homeland. This event is also referred to by many as the Black Storm. What caused this horrible transformation of the living? Was it the Black Spirit mentioned earlier? Or was it some form of dark thaumaturgy cooked up by a madman? The forest encampment is populated mostly by the Asmiri people, who hail from the Asmirian Mountains, also known as the Northern Ranges. Uramir is the only other exile living here. The first thing they say is that a white beast haunts their dreams. They want you to slay the beast in her den. But, where did the white beast come from? Well, if you don't mind me referencing the Path of Exile comics again, the white beast and other unique monsters in Act 2 can be found inside this laboratory, owned by a thaumaturgist named Malagaro. Malagaro had many servants and slaves assisting him in his experiments. He would use his creations to transform animals, or sometimes even people, into powerful monsters just like Shavron did. Only it was said that he was much better at it. So we can assume that the white beast used to be one of the many animals that he transformed. Yina just wants you to put the beast's suffering to an end. On your way to the den, you are confronted by elementals. These stone golem-like creatures were also created by the thaumaturgist Malagaro. A little further east is the Crossing, what used to be a small village where close friends and neighbors lived, until the nightmares caused the people to do horrible things. If you approach one of the ruins inside the Crossings, you can hear a woman crying. This woman is named Tani. She was a mother who lived in the village. There are 4 etchings found along the path. Her etchings tell you the tragic story about how the people living there are transformed into zombies seen walking about. In her etchings, she talks about a black storm descending from the northern ranges, which is also known as the Asmiri Ranges, which surprisingly enough is where Highgate is located. Inside the Chamber of Sins, we find another one of Malagaro's wicked transformations, named Black Death. This spider is also found in Volume 2 of the Path of Exile comics, before Malagaro had changed its size using the Baleful Gem. He was keeping it as some sort of pet. Beside the spider, you can find a message left by another thaumaturgist named Malachi. This message is giving Malagaro advice on how to improve his use of the virtue gems. What are these gems they talk about? Don't worry, stay tuned and I'll explain that later. On the second floor of the Chamber of Sins, we find Piety abandoning her Ebony Legion again at the first sign of trouble. After defeating Fidelitis, we find the Baleful Gem. Helena, a former Black Legionnaire, informs us that Piety was looking for the gem and must never get her hands on it. Back in town, Helena says that Fidelitis was Malagaro's assistant and lover named Raulo. He offered himself as a test subject. Malagaro injected him with the virtue gem, transforming him. He named him Fidelitis in honor of his loyalty and sacrifice. Back in Act 1, Fairgrave said that he took the Allflame from an inner Empire cathedral. Perhaps the cathedral he is talking about is the Fell Shrine. Inside the crypt, we find a unique skeleton named Archbishop Geoffrey. Geoffrey was actually a part of the Purity Rebellion, just like Calm was. I don't want to dive into the Purity Rebellion just yet, as I would need to skip way ahead. Before any of that would make any sense, let's just continue on with Act 2. Inside the Western Forest, we find the barricade Piety reactivated blocking the path back to the Outer Empire. The seal can be broken from this side, but an Ebony Legion, led by Captain Artiri, guards the seal. After you slay Artiri and break the seal, you can find a letter written by Piety. The letter is for Artiri. He tells him he must guard the seal and kill any exile that passes through. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "Until we share our next night together." Now, with our past experiences, Piety abandoning the Ebony Legion, does Piety actually have any feelings for this man? I don't know. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comment section below. Once you have both Malagaro's Spike from the Weaver, the Baleful Gem from the Chamber of Sins, and the Apex in hand, it is time you enter the Vaal Ruins. The entrance is blocked by a tree Yena named Lorata. Helena tells you to poison the tree using the spike and gem. By piercing the tough bark of the tree with a spike, and injecting the evil essence of the gem into the tree, you can weaken the tree, blocking the path. Helena says you must get into the ruins before Piety does, and ensure there is nothing that can further her twisted cause. But, where do the Vaal rooms come from? Who are the Vaal? Well, allow me to answer that for you. The Vaal are the oldest known race in Rayclast, almost completely forgotten in modern time. They were first to discover the virtue gems I mentioned earlier. You know, the things you suck into your armor. The gems were known to them as Tears of the Magi. The Vaal civilization were very fixated on the use of these gems, even more than the Empire was. Yrmir claims that it was the Vaal that began the use of virtue gems at a place called Doriani's Cradle, to ensure the Vaal civilization's future. Doriani was a thaumaturgist, similar to Malachi. The purpose of the cradle is uncertain. The last queen of the Vaal was named Adziri, who owned fabulous treasure. She allegedly sacrificed all those who opposed her with the help of Doriani. She sought immortality and eternal youth. By using the gems, she somehow found a way to steal the youth of others, inspired by the Vaalish noble and serial killer, Zerfi. Zerfi lived for 168 years, yet it is claimed that Zerfi did not possess the body of a 168-year-old man, rather that his corpse had the physiognomy of a man 20 years no more. It is implied that Zerfi had some method of stealing the youth of his victims. Towards reproducing this feat, Adziri sent young men and women to be processed by Doriani in numbers so large that their names filled page upon page. It is likely this quest was related to the end of the Vaal civilization. The Vaal civilization ended around 400 BIC. After the Vaal fell, 3,126 Vaal refugees assimilated into Azmiri civilization. The Azmiri first encountered the Vaal about 500 years before the Vaal fell. The Vaal helped the Azmiri civilization advance. Because the Azmiri grew from a primitive tribal existence into a cohesive culture of settlement and agriculture, The Vol guarded their knowledge of the virtue gems. Inside the Vol ruins, you come across an ancient seal. By touching it, you unknowingly release whatever was sealed away, back into the world. At this point in the game, we are led to believe that this creature of shadow is Malgaro's ultimate, purest, and darkest conjuring of thaumaturgy. According to Helena, his explanations for doing it make no sense to someone with a sane mind. But this doesn't explain why it was locked in an ancient seal, nor does it explain why it is called the Vol Oversoul. Some believe that it was the Vol that created this creature of darkness. It does resemble the small Vol constructs found inside the ruins. Perhaps the Vol destroyed themselves with its creation, and that's why they fell. According to the Light of Frisia inside the Library of Sarn, the darkness has happened before. An Asmiri general named Alano Frisia and his legions drove the dark being deep into the recesses of its lair and sealed it away for eternity. Alano was crowned emperor, and the Heartlands were named after his honor. What could Atziri and Doriani possibly have done to bring their whole civilization to an end? Is Malachi and the Emperor's misuse of the virtue gems the reason behind the cataclysm? Did the Empire suffer the same fate as the Vol? In the next episode, all will be revealed. Act 3, the city of Sarn, is just a click away. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe for more facts, lore, history, and more. Thanks for watching.